Okay, we might kick off for those that are here on time, and people will still be joining as we get going. So hi everyone, thanks for being here. My name's Janine. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the many lands from which we come together and pay respect to elders past and present, as well as acknowledging any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who are joining the session. So I am coming to you from Bidjigal country, which is part of Sydney, in the southern part of Sydney. And I am also joined by my colleague T, who is on Wurundjeri land. Hi, T.
Hi.
So T is part of our coach team, and she's going to help us out with today's session, especially with your questions. So this presentation, it isn't only about the investments and the changes that are coming soon. We also want to talk about how investments inside super evolve as you move through your life and through your career, and think about the changing nature of retirement. But before we do that, there's nothing like a good disclaimer before we start. It's important that I let you know everything we're talking about today is general in nature. It shouldn't be considered personal advice. So we are here to answer questions. But if your question specifically relates to your personal circumstances, then a group forum like this isn't the best place to get an answer. So at the end, we will provide details for the smart coaches who can assist you with those personal questions and personal advice. But your questions are very welcome. Please feel free to use the Q&A function. If there's something posted in there that might need that more personal information or context, T might reach out separately. And we'll have some time to answer some of those questions at the end today if T doesn't get through them all. So please feel free to use that. So, excuse me. To confirm what we're going to cover, we wanted to talk about how retirement is changing, how that's influenced the evolution of Smart Monday MySuper. We're going to cover off some of the information that you have already received from the fund about the MySuper investments and give you a little bit more context. And we also want to make sure that you understand your choices and where to find support. So let's get into the details. When most people think about super, one part of that thinking, of course, is retirement. But before we talk about retirement, just take a step back for a minute. For most Australians, super is actually one of the longest financial relationships that they will ever have. If you think about beginning with super in one of your first jobs and continuing well into retirement, that could be 60 or more years of managing this really important aspect of your overall financial picture. And because super can span decades, the things that matter really do change along the way. So when you're starting out, the important attributes of your super fund might be really different from what matters when you're approaching retirement or when you've reached retirement. And so that's why we want to think about super as a journey and as a long-term relationship. It really matters all the way along, but your connection to it changes. One of those stages really does deserve a bit of a closer look. Of course, retirement is when you get to access your super. But retirement isn't really a destination. It's not an end for super. And super really does need to evolve to reflect the changes in retirement. I think for a long time, retirement has been viewed as the destination, as the end game. You kind of worked, you saved, and then you retired, and you were probably retired for 10 to 15 years. So if you can, reflect a little bit on your grandparents' or your parents' retirement and think about the differences. What we know is that those changes will continue. Today's retirement reality is really different because many Australians spend longer in retirement, 20, 30 or more years. Home ownership is nowhere near guaranteed. More people are also reaching retirement with debt. And now that's not simply about housing costs, but about a lot of the different demographic changes, lifestyles and choices that we're making. So the landscape really is very different. And of course, the cost of living continues to rise. So retirement isn't necessarily the end of a superannuation financial journey. For many people, it really is another important stage within it. So if retirement is no longer a clear destination, but a whole phase of life, then super really does need to support more of the journey and evolve. The challenge is not getting to this finish line, but managing all these different versions of what that can look like. It's not a destination, it's not an end. So we want to now take a bit of a closer look at how Smart Monday is evolving to take some of these types of considerations into account. Now, before we start looking at the specifics of the changes and thinking about Smart Monday MySuper, I just want to have a quick look at what MySuper actually is for anyone that's feeling a little bit unsure. So MySuper is the default investment option. If you don't make your own investment choice, you'll generally be invested in MySuper. So it's a professionally managed approach, so you don't need to make those day-to-day investment decisions or regularly adjust your investments for yourself. Now, for many members, that's exactly what they want. They'd rather have a simple option that's managed for them while they focus on everything else that's going on in life. Of course, not everyone wants that approach. Some members do prefer to choose their own investment mix, and that's absolutely fine too. But the important thing here is you understand choice and options available. Sorry, I should say the choices and options available to you. So just confirming, MySuper is the default option. And if you haven't made an investment choice, you'll be invested in MySuper. So we've covered what MySuper is. Let's have a look at how it works and why it changes as we move through different life stages. So Smart Monday's MySuper doesn't use the same investment mix throughout your life. Instead, it automatically adjusts as you move through those different stages of life. So when you're younger, the investment mix has a greater focus in growth investments. And then as you get older, it gradually becomes more balanced. Now, this type of investment approach is called a life stage investment, or you might have also heard it called a life cycle investment approach. So it's worth mentioning that not all MySuper products in the superannuation sector in general work this way. Some funds do use the same investment mix for every member, regardless of age. And their default investment could be something as simple as a growth or a balanced option. But Smart Monday, MySuper, uses a life stage approach. So that's where the investment mix automatically adjusts over time. Now, I guess the obvious next question to that is why? Why not simply put everyone in the same investment mix throughout their lives? So let's have a look at some of the reasons. The key idea behind a life stage investment approach is simple. The risks you the risks you face change over time. When you're younger, market risk really can be the biggest consideration because markets are going up and down, but you generally have time on your side and time to recover from any market falls. With many years before retirement, those market movements are important, but less impactful. As retirement gets closer, timing and market movements start to matter much more. And this is known as sequencing risk. So a significant market fall just before or even soon after retirement can have a much greater impact because you might be starting to rely on your super and you've got less time for recovery. And then once you're in retirement, the risks do continue to change. So longevity risk becomes important because, as we said, retirement can last 20, 30 or more years. At the same time, inflation continues to reduce what your money can buy over time. So you need your investments to continue to grow even after you retire. And of course, market risk is there all the way along the journey. Now, the important point here is that those risks don't stay the same. So the investment approach shouldn't stay the same either. A life stage strategy is designed to respond to these changing risks that you can see here on the screen by automatically adjusting the investment mix over time. So we've looked at why the investment mix changes. Let's look at what's actually changing in the updated Smart Monday MySuper design. So Smart Monday has always used a life stage approach. So this concept isn't actually new, but what's changing is the design. And what you can see here on the screen is the new model, and it has fewer and more clearly defined stages, making it easier to understand and also easier for us to communicate with members about. So while the old model had a very gradual shift and it had lots of small adjustments, the new life stage option is more simple to understand with 4 distinct groups. So you'll notice that the investment mix maintains a higher allocation to growth assets across most age groups. So that's a deliberate response to those longer retirement journeys that we've just been discussing. The important thing to remember is that this remains a simple and professionally managed option. The investment mix does continue to adjust as you move through each life stage. So your investments are shifted when you reach the next age band. Twice a year, we will review and adjust investments for members based on your birthday, and aligned to those age bands, we'll make those necessary changes in the background. So just a quick reminder, this information has been sent to members to explain all the changes. So you should have received some communications from us that you can refer to as well. If you're in MySuper and you're happy to remain in MySuper, you don't need to take any action. The changes will occur automatically in the background and your account will be invested in line with these new age bands. Now, we've been focused on MySuper because that is the default investment option, but it isn't your only option. So if you're happy with a professionally managed approach, you don't need to do anything. Your super will transition to the updated MySuper structure automatically. But if you prefer to take a more active role in choosing how your super is invested, there are other investment options available to you, and there is no change to this choice investment menu. So the important thing here is you do have choice, but if you're unsure what option might be right for you, I'll show you where to get support in just a moment. Excuse me. Okay, so we've just been talking about the investment mix and how it changes over time and how different risks become more important at different life stages. But I think knowing that is one thing, living through it is another. When markets move, it's true, it can feel uncomfortable. And I think it's important to say, well, that's completely normal. Seeing your super balance fall, even if it's just for a short time, isn't something that anyone enjoys. So the important thing to remember here is that short-term market movements are only one part of that much longer journey. Remember, super relationship could be 60 or more years. So if you're looking at this slide and thinking, oh, how does this relate to this fitness image that I've got up there? It's just a way of thinking about super. One workout doesn't determine your fitness. You don't become fit because of one great workout or lose all your progress because of a bad one either. And investing really does work in a similar way. Your super is designed to support you over decades. And there will be periods where markets perform well and periods where they don't. But what matters is really focusing on that long-term goal rather than reacting to short-term movements. You wouldn't have the same workout over that 60-year relationship or 60-year time period of your life. You would change your workout. And in the same way, your super needs to evolve through those life stages as well. So fitness the fitness analogy isn't really about exercise. It's about just gaining some perspective. One workout doesn't determine your fitness. You don't become fit because of that great session or lose progress because of a bad one. What matters is consistency. So investing really does work in much the same way. And I've got 2 charts here to show you. Now they are showing the same market, but over 2 really different timeframes. So on the left, we're looking at just 6 months from the beginning of this year until the end of June. Now you can see the short-term dip, and it looks quite significant on the graph on the left. And if you are only looking at that 6-month period, it would probably be easy to think something had gone wrong. But when we look at exactly the same point in time in the chart on the right, we can see over 20 years of market history, and the same dip is still there, but the context of the much longer journey, it becomes just one of many market movements along the way. Now, this is the ASX 200 chart. It's not your Smart Monday returns, but because MySuper invests in growth assets like shares, they help illustrate how markets naturally move over time. And just like fitness, one point in time rarely tells the whole story. Short-term market movements are a normal part of long-term investing, which is why it's really important just to zoom out and keep your focus on that long-term goal. Now, some members are probably thinking that the life stage MySuper option sounds like the right thing for them, and others might be wondering if they should be looking at their options. So not every member is going to respond to these changes in the same way or needs the same investment product. For some members, the updated MySuper option will continue to be a good fit. Others might prefer more control. So if you know what you're looking for, you can explore the investment options available and make changes through your online account. And we've got lots of details on the website. If you're unsure, support is available through our coach team, and they can help you understand options and make a decision that really is right for your circumstances. So if you did want to make adjustments to your investments, you can do that through your online account, and the process really is very straightforward. You can choose if you'd like to adjust your current investments or any future deposits. It's really simple. If you log in and look for the button that says Manage Investments, you'll be able to follow those and make those selections. Okay, so we've talked about the investment model. It's becoming simpler to understand, and also wanted to talk to you about the changes to our fees. So for most members of the fund, fees are reducing, but it will depend on lots of different factors, including your own account balance and the investment choices that you've made. So I do want to draw your attention to a couple of changes to the administration fees in particular. Now, the reason I wanted to focus on these is because administration fees, which all super funds have, are a direct deduction from your account. So you can actually see the administration fees when you log in and you see the transactions in your account. So the good news, the dollar-based administration fee is going to be reducing. So it will be coming down to $67.60 per year, and that is deducted from your account on a monthly basis. Your percentage-based administration fees are also reducing, and a fee cap is being introduced. So for members with higher balances, you'll never pay more than $1,000 a year in percentage-based administration fees. So this also applies to pension accounts. The new fee cap makes sure that as your balance grows, you don't continue to see increases in fees, which have the potential to erode your balance. So I really would encourage you to have a look at the recent communications we've sent to you, have a look at the fees and have a look at how they apply to your account. I also think it's worth noting we do work with some organisations and employers that have different arrangements in place. So perhaps your employer is covering some of these fees as part of your employment package. So once again, look at recent communications, log into your account and have a look at the exact fee information that applies to you. Okay, so I think after all this information, the natural question is, do you need to take any action? So if you're in MySuper and you're happy to remain in MySuper, you don't need to do anything. The changes will occur automatically. Your account will shift investments in line with those new age bands. If you would prefer a different investment option, you can make changes by logging into your account. And of course, you can reach out to us for support. We are here to help you. You don't need to make decisions alone. If you're feeling a bit unsure about what might be the right option for you, support is available, and speaking with an advisor can really help you understand your options and make some informed choices. Now, you can use the QR code on the screen to make an appointment, or you can use the other options like the chat option on the Smart Monday website too. So that just about wraps things up for today. We do have time for questions. So T, I might shout out to you and see if we've got anything coming through in the chat. What we do have is a few questions that came through when people registered for the session as well. So how's the chat looking?
Thanks, Janine. We do have a couple of questions over chat.
Shall we do the ones that came in from the registrations first and then have a look at those?
Yeah,
Sure.
let's
Okay.
do that.
All right, let me throw a few at you if you don't mind. So first question is about fees. Are these changes going to cost more or less in fees deducted from MySuper on a monthly basis?
So yeah, on a monthly basis, there will generally be a fee reduction because as you had mentioned, that dollar-based fees reducing from $72 per year to $67.60. And then that percentage-based admin fee as well is reducing and will be capped at $1,000 per year for high balance members. So for the most part, members will see a reduction, but for specifics on your account, definitely best to check the communications we sent, or you can reach out to us.
Awesome. Sorry, excuse me. I thought this was a really good question, T, that came in. With regard to fees, this member wanted to know why we always show fees with a $50,000 balance.
Right, that is a great question. And this member likely did see it from our fund and other funds if they've had a look. So all super funds do provide that fee comparison at $50,000. So that is required by legislation. And the goal essentially is to make it easier for people to look at the options and compare between funds. So it is a standardized approach. You definitely want to look at the fees for your balance since that's what they will reflect.
Awesome. Okay. So a member has asked us, are there any additional issues or impacts with these changes for people who've already retired?
So if you've retired or you have a pension account, the fee reduction will also apply there. And there will be no additional changes to the pension products as well.
Awesome. Okay. We're getting through these nice and quick. I've got another retirement one for you, T. So at retirement, are you better to pay the mortgage off or receive a monthly pension account payment?
Another great question. Not enough time for that because there are some personal considerations that come with that. So it does depend on a number of factors such as your age, your balance, and other eligibility requirements. So definitely want to get advice on.
Yep, I think that's a great question. Definitely something that comes up at retirement. So if that member's listening, please reach out. Okay, we have had a few other retirement questions and things about kind of preparing for retirement. I've combined these ones a little bit because there was a few that were similar. So the question is, what's the best super option if I'm looking at retiring, and what should I do to prepare?
Right. Great question, because it is great to think about your super and your retirement at any stage. Like you had mentioned, super is a journey. So whether you have 10 years or more, always a good time, but it will definitely depend on your individual circumstances. So anytime you do have those kind of questions like what's best, what's right, what's recommended for me, that tells you that it's a great time opportunity to get in touch with us and get personal advice or general advice. And also just with reminding that, the advice fee is at your disposal because other than pension, it's part of your membership fee. So no additional cost for reaching out to us.
Awesome. Okay. The next one is about access to super. So the question is, I'm 61. Can I withdraw any of my super?
Right. So the short answer is yes. Age 60 is your milestone age in super, which is known as, or we call your preservation age. So at 60, your super does become accessible to you. There are some conditions based on your employment status. Age 65, though, is that magical number where, regardless of your employment status, you have access. So if you want to know your specific options, please reach out to us for that.
Yeah, especially if you're in those age groups, really good time to have a coach conversation.
That's right.
Okay, the next one that came through was actually about insurance. So just a reminder, if you do have questions, you're welcome to put them in the Q&A, and they don't have to be about the topics that we've covered off today. So this member wanted to know, how would they find out if they had TPD insurance with their super?
Sure. The quickest way is if you have access to your online member portal, which you showed earlier around your investment mixes. That's also where you can see all your account details, including your insurances. So that's under your personal details menu. Or you can also reach out to us and we'll be happy to walk you through insurances or our administration team as well.
Awesome. Okay, I think this is the last one I've got here, and it's about financial advice, but it's actually about financial advice outside Smart Monday. So a lot of the time through the session today, I've been saying reach out to our smart coaches. That's called intra-fund advice, but this member wants to know about if they've got an external financial advisor. Can a member give authority to that external financial advisor to manage their super or help them manage their super? And if the answer to that is yes, how does Smart Monday make sure they can't sneak in any additional charges?
Sure. Really valid question there. The answer is yes. And there are definitely controls in place for that. So members can allow a financial advisor to help them with their super. And they would have to provide us an authority that would be valid for 12 months. So we can't deduct any fees without that authority, which essentially is your consent for that advisor. And that needs to be renewed every year. So there is also a maximum advice fee, and advisors are audited to make sure they have ASIC authorization. So if this is something you want more information on, reach out to our administration team. Their details are on the contact us page on the Smart Monday website.
Beautiful. Okay. Actually, T, I have got one more here that I've just seen.
Sure.
So this is about contributions. If my super contributions exceed the maximum, is there another way to make contributions and to minimize tax?
Yeah. There's a couple moving parts to this. Firstly, contribution caps did just increase in the financial year that just started, 1st July. So now the concessional cap is 32,500 and the non-concessional is 130,000. So you might have opportunity to increase that compared to the last financial year where it was a little bit lower. And there may be allowances that you have if you haven't maximized your caps for both concessional and non-concessional. And then also with minimizing that tax, of course, the tax rate for concessional contributions is 15%, which may be less than your marginal tax rate. That will depend on your personal circumstances, of course, and we'd be happy to discuss that with anyone.
Beautiful. Okay. Have you got anything else that's come through on the chat there, T, that we need to help people with?
So let's have a look. Looks like we have an investment question here. So this person says, I've chosen Australian shares to be one of my investment options. How can I see which particular shares my money is invested in? And can I change that?
So do you want to take that one or do you want me to have a go?
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay, so there is some information on our website that details more things about each of the investment options. You can't, in Smart Monday, choose the explicit shares that your money is invested in. It is managed by the team. So Australian shares would be across a broad range, a diversified group of Australian shares. I think that if you want some more information on that, have a look on the website and do reach out to the coach team who'll be able to give you some more details.
Awesome. So we do have one on retirement. Why start a pension account after retirement rather than just drawing lump sums?
Or once again, lots of personal reasons why people might do that. When you move into a pension account, there's sometimes some tax advantages. So your investment earnings and your withdrawals are both tax-free. If you're in a pension account, you do need to be withdrawing a minimum amount as according to the legislation. So that would need to come through to you, or you can choose the regularity, so monthly, quarterly, even annually, I think. If you want to manage your money on a lump sum withdrawal basis, it's your money. You can absolutely do that. That is something that is available to you. But I think if this person's having those thoughts and they're wondering, how do I manage my money in retirement, it is probably a good opportunity to speak to someone about what are the best options for you. I guess a pension account really is built to replicate the cash flow that we often have through employment and help people manage money in a similar way. And that's probably a good reason why people choose that approach over lump sum withdrawals. But yeah, definitely something to reach out and to think about, and of course look at those tax implications as well.
Absolutely. And still on that investment note, Janine, do you have an option to invest in properties is another great question here.
This is a really common question. Often people ask us about property investments. Australians love investing in property. There are property investments as part of your Smart Monday portfolio. So we don't invest in buying a particular house, you know, number 10 John Street. That's not what we do, but you definitely have property investments as part of your portfolio. And in fact, often you have access to some of the bigger property investments and infrastructure investments by being part of Smart Monday, because we do have that scale to be able to invest in larger things. Anything else to add there, T?
I think you pretty much covered it. So definitely reach out to us because that's a great one we would be able to give you more advice on and give you more specifics around your account and your goals.
Yep, sure.
Other than that, we have a couple of login questions. Really good ones because you want to have access to your super to see what's going on there. For that, our admin team would be able to assist you. Again, you'll find their number on the contact us on the Smart Monday website, or their direct number, if you're noting down, is 1-300-614-644. So please do reach out so they can help you log in. And then if you want to know more about where you're invested or your fees, reach out to us too. And then we have one more around booking a coaching session if outside of Australia. This is an interesting one. We definitely encourage you to reach out to us. If you are outside Australia, we are limited to factual information just because there are laws around giving advice when you're outside of different countries, jurisdictions, and on that. But we would be happy to answer as many questions as you have. So please do drop us an email or give us a call, and we'll be happy to do that.
So maybe the email's the best because time zones can be tricky. So yeah, send us an email and we'll try and find a time that's going to be the best with time zones.
That's right.
Anything else we've got in there?
Looks like some questions around getting more information around the fees. So that communications, if you have it, that's the starting point. But absolutely, please feel free to call or email us. And then we'll give you more information around your specific investment or admin fees and costs.
Sure. And there is information on the website as well. So do jump onto the smartmonday.com.au and have a look at that as well.
Absolutely. So I think we've covered, for the most part, what we have there.
Awesome. Okay. As we've said, you know, you can reach out to us anytime, book a Smart Coach appointment, reach out to the contact centre. We always encourage people to really stay connected to their super. It is, as we said at the beginning, one of your most important financial relationships and a really big part of your overall financial picture. So please stay in touch with us, and we hope to see you at the next session. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, everyone.